Before we begin, I'd like to direct you to the link in the description for the No Swear Gamers review of this game that I'm about to review. I've been aware of his channel and a fan for a long time. I'm even in his Discord. And unlike the Atari archive, the No Swear Gamer does know I exist. It's been a while since we've been in contact with each other, but I won one of his giveaways way back when, a number of years ago. And my Atari Golf cartridge came directly from him. So go check him out, and then come back here and see what I have to say about Pole Position 2. We visit the first console I ever had daily access to in this retro game review of Pole Position 2 for the Atari 7800 Pro system. The Atari 7800 holds a very, very special place in my heart, and I'm not oblivious to its flaws, but have such fond memories that I sometimes take it personally when I hear and read that it's a failed console. While the criticism is on the harsh side, it did fail at many, many things. The ambient structure in and around Atari during its manufacture, test release, and eventual full release did nothing but curse its potential over and over again. I'm not here to criticize too much the business decisions and mismanagement of this system, but it is silly for me to pretend these things didn't happen, and we can all wonder what could have been for this console if anyone had stopped to question those decision makers. Our last review covered Super Breakout for the 5200, and I alluded to the Pokey chip in all of its audio glory. For the 7800, not included. There were two original releases that included the Pokey chip in the carts, but I think you can see right off the bat what a money pit strategy that could end up being. So most developers for the 7800 program the games just with the 2600 audio capability. At least they got the backwards compatibility right. Okay, Pole Position 2, the pack-in. Well, for those of us in NTSC land. In my youth. It's the mid-1980s. Young Evad hears his family all upstairs, wondering what is going on. Evad heads up to check it out. Mom and Sis are watching Dad hook up to the television set a gaming console. We got an Atari! Evad is dumbfounded. Video games! Evad is excited. The details aren't much more clear than what I just described. But on day one, we had 4 games. One of them being Pole Position 2. My sister, roughly the age of learning how to drive, takes the Pro-Line controller and gives it a shot. I can't say for sure what happened next, but I'm confident that a crash occurred, instilling her with confidence for her road test in the near future. I have numerous more great memories of this game. I love it. I always have, and still do, enjoy a good racing game. And this was the one that effectively started it all for me. Pole Position 2 is a single-player racing style game. You play it like a racer, but it doesn't really track your position, except your starting slot after the qualification lap. It has 4 tracks to choose from, compared to the 2600 Pole Position 1's lone track. Each more difficult than the previous. Test, Fuji, Seaside, and Suzuka, or as I called them, Pyramid, Mountain, Seaside, and Valley Fair. Minnesota natives will understand the reference. You can select high or low gear using up and down on your joystick, and steer intuitively with left and right. The action buttons, well, I'm sure the manual will indicate which lever is the velocitator and which is the deceleratrix. Although, for me, as is the case with numerous racing games, I don't really use the brake and I just let off the gas if I wish to slow down. But hey, out of my way, I'm a motorist. The look. Oh, it looks great. The backgrounds are superb. The sensation of speed and acceleration are remarkable for the era. The oil spills. Is it even oil if they're blue? Let's refer to the manual. Well, what do you know? They're puddles. The cars are a huge step up from the 2600 graphics, but only moderately so from the 5200. And even that's debatable. The crash animations are, although extreme, very well done. And really, I have no complaints about the look of this game. When you look at where you were 5 years ago with graphics, and where you are here with Pole Position 2, you can see a trend forming. The graphics are just going to get better and better as time goes on. So long as the developers take the time to do it right. Sound. I like it, but I also grew up with it. I can understand if the 2600 audio is not to your liking, especially on the console after the console that was supposed to replace it. But to me, the pre-post race jingle, the hum of the engine, it's good. Explosions sound great. No pokey, so it actually is a step back from 5200 Pole Position in the sound department. But they did very good with what they had to work with. Gameplay. First of all, I need to discuss, yet again, the controllers. North American gamers were blessed with the cool-looking Pro-Line joysticks. I was very comfortable using these as a kid. Being left-handed, it also made 2600 games much more inclusive, at least before I adapted, well, as much as I ever would, to a right-handed world. My parents would complain about hand cramps. This was an alien concept to me, but hey, we got some Wico Ergo sticks out of it because Mom needed her nightly Centipede high score grind. Minus the hand pain. As an adult, I'm grateful for this because I now understand firsthand what they were experiencing. It's not much of a secret anymore that the Genesis controller has some compatibility with the 2600 and 7800. In fact, nearly all 2600 joystick games work fine with it. The B button equals your action button. But 7800 games have some limitations with this setup. B is still your primary action button, but it effectively reads the secondary action button as being held down. This isn't a big deal for some titles. I did a high score grind of 7800 Dig Dug using a Genesis controller. Unfortunately, for Pole Position 2, with the brake button being held down perpetually, EVAD does not recommend it for this game. You can try it if you like, and you can let me know how far you get. 0 pixels traveled on the Fuji track is my prediction. The 2600 does have numerous third-party controllers, and I will go with that Wico Ergo stick I mentioned earlier. You can't use brake with them, but you can play the game. HAL Regions had a more NES-style controller with their consoles. It had a thumbstick that was removable into a D-pad. Very, very interesting. You should check them out sometime. I'd love to get one, but at the time of this recording, I am without. Aftermarket versions of 2-button 7800 controllers exist, with even more of an NES style to them than these PAL controllers. However, the seller makes them on demand and charges far more than I'm willing to pay. I don't have the heart to lowball them or the justification to spend so much for a little bit of comfort. Okay, that was a long detour from the actual gameplay. The controls are good. It follows that solid mantra, a video game should be easy to learn and difficult to master, exceedingly well. 2600 Pole Position 1 players will notice high and low gears are flipped. Since I had played this game for many, many years before being exposed to the 2600 port of Pole Position, this is a non-issue for me. Not much to say. You'll get a feel for it, and if you keep at it, will improve nicely. The game doesn't cheat you very often. Sometimes the cars you attempt to pass will try to get you to crash into them. At least it feels that way. But it feels that way significantly less on this game than Pole Position 1 on the 2600. I haven't played the 5200 Pole Position 1 recently, or really enough, so I must decline a comparison on this matter with that game. But yeah, the gameplay is good. It feels natural, controls good, and as you improve, you develop a confidence that is very satisfying. Until you crash into a Fuji logo sign. How are those supposed to be helpful anyway? One downside to this game is the earning of time. When you complete each lap, you get an extended play, adding 60 seconds to your timer. If you're incapable of completing the lap within the allotted time, your game ends. I realize this is a consequence of a bygone era, so I can't be too critical. But I am glad that this feature did not stick around for future racing games. Even if I'm playing poorly, I like to be able to complete the race. Relevance today. Racing games are a dime a dozen. This isn't the first, it isn't the best. It's a lone, arbitrary step in a staircase that grows larger and larger on a regular basis. While I absolutely love this game, aside from 7800 Fanatics, which has a bit of an upsurge due to the amazing homebrew scene, this is a game that will likely be forgotten by most. Not completely lost to time, though, because cartridges are abundant. It was not only the NTSC pack-in, but for whatever reason, it could be purchased apart from the console as well. Did people lose or break their original carts? I don't know. Who would like this? 7800 fans probably already have it and will not hesitate to let you know if they like it or not. I do think this is a game that fans of behind-the-driver POV racing games would definitely enjoy. There are, indeed, better racing games out there, and it may or may not take a special personality to rate this game above any of the much later racing titles. The 4 tracks provide an abundance of degrees of challenge and difficulty, and for those who choose to grind it, there will always be an opportunity to improve. It has great replayability in that regard, but if you're like most, you will not want to grind this game with the ProLine controller. Overall, the look, the sound, the gameplay, the controls, they're great. I enjoy them. This review being very subjective, however, as I've mentioned, this is a game I've had since the early days of EVAD 999 as a gamer. I like it. There's nostalgia for it, and I could tell stories about this game for days and days and days, but this review has its limits. I was able to complete all 3 of the racetracks that I have completed in my childhood for the purposes of this video, but Suzuka is still a challenge I may have to tackle. Next. Now you're playing with power. See you next mission.